Okay, we're good.
These are the causes of the Civil War. The Missouri Compromise. Missouri was turned to a slave state and Maine remained as a free state, separating the area as 3630. Tariffs and nullification. Southerners argued that the tariff only helped the North and they wanted to nullify it. Nat Turner's Rebellion. At 1831, Nat Turner, an educated slave, and 6 fellow slaves launched a slave rebellion. They killed 60 whites. The Southern whites made slave codes more severe, like slaves cannot get education, and they lashed out at abolitionists, blaming them for Turner's actions. The Manifest Destiny. During the 1840s, the United States completed their expansion of territories all the way to the West Coast. This led to the issue of how to decide on slavery in the West. Congressman David Wilmot first introduced the proviso in the United States House of Representatives on August 8, 1846, to ban slavery in territory acquired from Mexican cession. It passed the House but failed in the Senate until the Compromise of 1850. The conflict over the Wilmot Proviso was one of the major events leading to the American Civil War. The Free Soil Party was a party of Republicans that were trying to stop slavery spreading west. The Compromise of 1850 was where North and South compromised on 4 main things: making California a free state, Utah and Mexico can vote, no more slave trade around Washington, and strong fugitive slave laws. 4 famous abolitionists. William Lloyd Garrison was a prominent American abolitionist. He founded the abolitionist newspaper, The Liberator, in 1831 and published until slavery was abolished by a constitutional amendment after the American Civil War. He was one of the founders of the American Anti-Slavery Society and promoted immediate emancipation of slaves in the United States. The Grimke sisters, Sarah Moore Grimke and Angelina Emily Grimke, they were the first American female advocates of abolition and women's rights. Harriet Beecher Stowe, she was an American abolitionist and author in 1852. She published Uncle Tom's Cabin. This book depicted slavery as a moral evil and became the best-selling book of the 19th century, and also inspired many people in the North to join the abolitionist cause.
Okay.
Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman was a former slave that escaped and led slaves in the Underground Railroad. That was a network of slave houses to help slaves escape to freedom. The Kansas and Nebraska Act. This got rid of the Missouri Compromise and allowed Kansas and Nebraska to choose whether they want to be a slave or a free state. Bleeding Kansas was a series of violent confrontations in the United States between 1854 and 1861. The conflict was characterized by years of electoral fraud, raids, assaults, and retributive murders. It began between Kansas and Missouri. The formation of the Republican Party. This was a group of anti-slavery Whigs that started a new party. Dred Scott for Stanford. In 1857, slave Dred Scott sued for his freedom after traveling with his master from Missouri to Wisconsin. This case presented the Supreme Court with 2 major questions. Does Congress have the power to decide on slavery in the territories? And is this Missouri Compromise constitutional? And the result is no with both. The other questions, as a slave, Dred Scott had no right to sue. Lincoln and Douglas debates. This debate was between Abe Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. Douglas was a Democrat and Abe Lincoln was a Republican. John Brown's Raid. This was a raid led by John Brown, and he tried to raid the Federal Army at Henry, and this ended up being a failure. Election of 1860. Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln, who argued free soil and a strong national government. The Democrats split into two parts. Stephen Douglas represented the North, argued for popular sovereignty. John Breckinridge represented the South, argued for states' rights and the protection of slavery. Abraham Lincoln won the election without a single Southern vote. Southerners assumed slavery would be abolished and began to discuss seceding from the USA. South Carolina secedes from the U.S. South Carolina decided to secede from the United States. Shots fired at Fort Sumner. Shots fired at Fort Sumner was a bombardment of Fort Sumner near Charleston, South Carolina, by the Confederate States Army, and the return gunfire and subsequent surrender by the United States Army that started the American Civil War. Thank you for watching.